On the broadcast tonight, moment of impact, exclusive and dramatic new images that may help explain that deadly midair collision above the Hudson River. Tight money Americans aren't spending. Can there be a recovery without them? And what may be the downside of the Cash for Clunkers program? Overwhelmed, the healthcare crisis close up. What happened when word got around about the free healthcare clinic we told you about earlier this week? And death of a legend. Even if you've never picked up a guitar, he changed your life. The remarkable Les Paul is gone. Nightly News begins now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening, I'm Ann Curry in for Brian Williams, and tonight a new video obtained exclusively by NBC News may help investigators explain last weekend's tragic midair collision over New York's Hudson River. All 9 people aboard the plane and the sightseeing helicopter died in an accident experts said did not need to happen. Taken by a tourist practicing with a new camera, the video clearly shows the moment of impact. A warning now, this video is hard to watch. NBC's Tom Costello now joins us with more on this. Tom.
And good evening. This is the kind of video investigators have been hoping for. It shows, or appears to show, the crash as it happened last Saturday in the skies over New York's Hudson River. And again, a warning, it is disturbing to watch. The video was shot by an Italian tourist who was on a boat on the Hudson River. While experimenting with his new camera, he zooms in on a helicopter flying over the river just as a small plane comes up from behind.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
The plane seems to almost explode on impact, with pieces raining down on the river. It's the kind of video investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board have asked the public for.
If they have any that might have captured the aircraft, the sequence or the collision, if that could be provided, that would be very helpful.
An early theory is that the chopper was in the plane's blind spot below its wings. Now, slowed down frame by frame, the images seem to show the single-engine Piper turning and climbing, then clipping the helicopter's rotor blades. Immediately, the plane's right wing is sheared off. The plane flips over as both the plane and the chopper nosedive into the river below. Former NTSB investigator Greg Fife.
The key here is that whatever took place in the cockpit of that Piper aircraft was enough to distract the pilot and not allow him to see the helicopter as he intercepted its flight path.
The video also captures the aftermath as boats race to the area where both went down, only to find a few pieces of debris floating in the water. Earlier today in Italy, the coffins of the 5 Italian tourists who died in the crash returned home for burial, greeted by family, friends, and flowers. Now investigators will closely examine this new tape to determine exactly how the plane and helicopter crashed, their altitude and position in relation to each other, and how on a beautiful blue sky day with thousands of people watching, 2 experienced pilots could have had a fatal encounter. This incident has raised concerns about the safety of the Hudson River Air Corridor, a 3-mile stretch of airspace in which pilots fly without air traffic control if they're under 1,100 feet. The NTSB and the FAA have both said they intend to look at whether more restrictions are necessary. Ann.
And so then how long will this investigation take before we find out, in fact, whether they will issue new guidelines, Tom?
Typically a year to 18 months for the investigation, but the FAA under the Obama administration has already taken action on issues before the NTSB has made any recommendations. So the aviation world will be watching very closely whether it takes action on the Hudson airspace.
All right, Tom Costello tonight. Tom, thank you for your reporting. Turning now to a display of sisterhood today on Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's tour of Africa. She voiced strong support for Liberia's President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the first woman to become a head of state in Africa. Secretary Clinton's marathon trip ends soon. She returns to the United States tomorrow night. On Cape Cod tonight, the Kennedy family is saying goodbye to Eunice Kennedy Shriver, the sister of the late president and the woman who stood up for the rights of the physically and mentally challenged. NBC's Andrea Mitchell now joins us tonight from Centerville, Massachusetts. Andrea.
Good evening, and all day here today, the family greeted the famous and the not so famous at Our Lady of Victory Church behind me. As the wake continues tonight, we have seen everyone here from, of course, Maria Shriver, the daughter of Eunice Shriver, and her brothers, Her siblings also, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Oprah, Caroline Kennedy, and also the not-so-famous, the Special Olympians who think of Eunice Shriver as their grandmother. They told me that she mentored them, she loved them. In fact, she was an inspiration. She single-handedly changed the way that the physically and mentally challenged are treated all over the world. And she will tomorrow be buried. There will be a funeral mass. The one person missing here today was, of course, Teddy Kennedy, who is battling brain cancer. We don't know yet whether he will be here tomorrow for the funeral, but they will march after the casket, and they will go to a different parish church in nearby Hyannis, and a torch will be carried by one of the Special Olympians. Ann?
To bury a great woman. All right, Andrea Mitchell tonight. Thank you so much. And also tonight, the remains of the long-lost Navy pilot Scott Spiker has returned to his home in Florida. His flag-draped coffin arrived this afternoon at the Jacksonville Naval Air Station. Spiker's jet was shot down on the first night of the first Gulf War, and it wasn't until this month that his remains were positively identified. When we come back, secrets of the deep that might help fight cancer.